Hey guys, here we are for a short track guide in the NASCAR Next Gen car at the Chicago Street Course. For this track guide, I'm going to show you my hot lap first, and then I'm going to break down the lap in slow motion and show my approach to each corner. Now before we get to the hot lap, let's check out the settings I'm using for the lap. For this track guide, we're using the fixed Chicago setup, with the only changes being made to the steering pinion, moving that up to 2.87, and the brake bias to 48%, and you could probably lower that depending on how much you want to risk locking up. Now let's get to the hot lap. So now let's break down that lap in slow motion. So as we're coming to the start-finish line to start our lap, shifting up to 4th gear and 5th gear as we cross the finish line, and we're looking over to the left-hand side for some brake markers. Now one brake marker to use is the end of these banners on the wall. You can start braking around there. Another brake marker I like to use are these markings like on the road, like these arrows. I like to brake like about a car length before those. So you can see getting on the brakes around 60% or maybe 80% initially, then starting to trail off as we downshift to 3rd, and heading into the corner, downshifting to 2nd, and just about letting off braking at apex. Getting back to partial throttle, you can see a lot of oversteer there, so you gotta be patient on the throttle, bringing the car immediately over to the left-hand side of the track. Once again, I'm using like these arrows as a reference mark for when to get on the brakes. As we pass those, getting on the brakes, trying to hug the very left-hand side of the wall here, downshifting to 2nd, and trying to turn in very early. I feel like there's a lot more grip on this inside here. It's almost like a little bit banked right at the inside. It'll help carry your car around. Once again, very cautious on the throttle, slow not to get a lot of wheel spin out on exit. And once you get back to full throttle, once you get up to 3rd gear, you should be able to go back to full throttle. So shifting up to 4th gear here, we're just going to be taking the shortest distance by turning and just hugging this inside wall here into 5th gear. And as we're approaching this right-hander, looking on the left-hand side of the wall for a brake reference, I'm using this 4 marker here, or just past it. You can kind of, also, you can see I'm braking a little bit earlier than that actually, but kind of using that 4 as a reference. And downshifting like hard in a straight line. It's really bumpy through here, but you want to extend this brake zone as long as you can, so braking in a straight line and then turning in. Just trailing off the brake through here, taking a lot of speed in, and then downshifting to 2nd right as we get past this McDonald's sign, trying to hold a tighter line than like these marks on the road kind of show. And then that'll allow you, once you get back in the throttle a little bit here, to use a lot of the runoff. It gets really tight on exit if you take it wide, so trying to hold a really tight line that way you can unwind the wheel a little bit there. So back to 3rd gear, and now we go down this long straight. So approaching the braking zone, this is a really easy place to lock up, so just be cautious on getting that initial brake in, doing it before you even get to that 4 mark. So not really a great reference here, but make sure you get on the brakes before that 4 mark. You can see almost 100% brake pressure, and then down to 3rd, and waiting for a long time until you get down to that 2nd gear. So 2nd about at that 1 sign. As we turn in, hard to see that inside wall initially, and keep that wheel turned for a long time, since that not much room on exit to unwind the wheel. As we go up this hill, once again, not a great reference for when to brake, but I try to brake right before we start going down the hill. So I can see the downhill here. We're not going downhill yet, but we're going to already get on the brakes. Around 50%, trying to minimize any lockup. I could be taking first here, but I feel you just get way too much wheel spin, so I just keep it in second. And just trying to get around a really tight corner through here, partial throttle, and you can see like on the wall there's like this little dip here, and so I kind of use it as a reference of when to like shift up to third, and also as we get down through that bump, uh, turning in for this corner. It gets really tight through here. You gotta just turn in right as that wall goes through here. And through this long left-hander, you can shift up to fourth for stability, but I feel you can keep it in third, get a little more rotation through here, just modulating the throttle. Small tap of the brakes as we go through this right-hander, and that's really bumpy as we start to get into this braking zone. So just be really cautious not to make any huge adjustments with the throttle or brake. And I'd say once the car gets settled, trying to get onto the brakes, around 80% brake pressure, you can see a downshift to first here, that's for rotation, and then immediately upshift to second. That way you don't have the wheel spin on exit. So as we go back up the hill here, up to third gear, approaching the final corner, looking on the road for some markers. We're using these arrows once again as a brake reference right as we pass them, getting on the brakes, around 75%, downshifting to second, trailing off, turning in right to the wall, and being patient on the throttle on exit, using up all the track. And that's a lap around the Chicago street course. So hopefully that lap guide was helpful. Now I'm going to show that lap one more time from chase view, just that way you can see the approach to all the corners.